Prepare for the most vague review you have ever seen. Based off of the title, you can imagine what this is. This is the history of swear words. I am not going to say them. This is produced by Funny or Die, which is Will Ferrell and Adam McKay's company. They had nothing to do with this. It's just the company. It's on Netflix, and their big selling point is Nicolas Cage is the presenter slash host. And I am the biggest fan of Nick Cage. No matter what he is in, I will watch it. He gives 100% of his ability, no matter what. If he's winning an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, or if he's doing math problems and yelling at people and knowing, remember that movie? He commits 100%, and I love him for it. And I was worried that he was like this big selling point, and he wasn't going to be in it. Nicolas Cage is in every single episode of this, easily the biggest chunk. Like, I was so happy that Nicolas Cage wasn't underused, wasn't overused. The perfect amount of Nicolas Cage is in the history of swear words. Do you remember VH1's I Love the 80s, I Love the 90s, 70s, whatever? This is kind of like that. You get a bunch of comedians who are just kind of, I just dropped my phone. I tried to save it and it broke. I almost swore. So this is kind of like the VH1 stuff from the mid 2000s, where it's comedians are making their own jokes about the swear words. It adds absolutely nothing. It needs someone who doesn't use it, like a Jim Gaffigan or a Brian Regan or some other comic who claims they're clean, just to like give it some balance, because it got kind of old. The first episode is about the biggest one. You know what it is. And man, it's almost overwhelming to your ears. Even if you use it all the time, it's too much. Like, we need someone to say like, hey, you don't need it if you don't want to, which they eventually do in the very last episode. They talk about the proxy swears like darn it and gosh and stuff like that. So the comedians don't really add much to this other than just an excuse to swear a lot. But the experts on this, like, this is genuinely fascinating. You learn about the history of the swear words all the way back to what, like, one of the words was from like the 1400s, and it like all these words elevated and like transformed into other words. They got a professor of cognitive sciences. They got a women's studies professor. They got like 3 like linguists on it. Someone who wrote a book about this exact documentary. It's fascinating. Like, you will actually learn something. I learned a lot of things. I can't really say what I learned about the words other than it just evolved over time, and it's pretty fascinating. It talks a lot about censorship with the MPAA in the Hays Code in movies, or the explicit lyrics thing on music. It's kind of like the history of censorship on top of swear words. This movie or documentary or series, whatever you want to call this, it's very, very fast. You'll watch the whole thing in like 3 hours. There's 6 episodes. There's 6 dirty words they talk about. And obviously, if swear words offend you, stay clear of this, because they say a lot of them. And Nicolas Cage is gloriously weird as the host. I was like, again, I'm just so glad that they let him be weird and they used him the right amount. So happy about that. I don't know if I'm going to watch this again, but it's still worth your time. It's still worth your time if you got nothing going on. Again, it's a fast watch. This is a very weird and niche show, series, documentary, whatever. It's worth your time. I give this a 7.5 out of 10, mainly because they spend way too much time on the comedians. And I just wish there was someone else going, hey, we don't need these words. Like, it's great that we have them, but hey, there's other things that we can say. But the experts are really, really fascinating. It's entertaining, and Nicolas Cage is gloriously bizarre. And what more could you want other than crazy Nick Cage swearing at you?